Hello. Good evening to you. I am your host, Cindy Holden, and you have arrived to my channel. Every piece of me matters. Welcome back. I'm back, and so are you. We have been diving into, I'm going to call it a series of when shift happens, transition, the change, life changes, whatever it be. And then we kind of moved into how to move through the shift or the transition with clarity. And so I have promised you that we would talk about practicing compassion and care in the midst of a transition. So tonight, that's what it be. So if you have perhaps missed when shift happens, that was 3 weeks ago, I'm going to invite you to go back and check it out. And then you can follow up and watch how to move through the transition, the shift with clarity. And so there's some very, I'm going to say, pertinent information for my sisters and for others who may be following along. By the way, have you been watching the content and benefiting in some way and perhaps sharing it with other people? Well, I am going to encourage you. I don't do this often, but I am compelled to do it tonight. Listen, share it with someone else. Don't keep it to yourself. So don't just share it, right? Like it if you find that it's helpful, the content, share it, and then subscribe. When you subscribe, hit that little bell so whenever I come on, you'll receive a notification that I'm here. Yes, yes, yes. And so tonight, as I said, we're going to talk about how to practice compassion and care as you are going through the shift. Some of you may be asking, well, what shift are you talking about? What transition? Listen, it might be some life-changing event. What comes to mind, it could be something concerning your health, perhaps a relationship, career, maybe you're relocating, but that shift, that transition is happening in your life. And so there are many of us that are experiencing different types of shifts, right? That change, moving from one place to another, be it literally, or in some instances, it can be that state of mind, that state of being that we find ourselves in. I am shifting from being, I'm just using this for an example, closed and rigid, and I'm so stuck on the tradition that I'm not open to anything else. And so now I find myself in this shift, in this transition. What used to serve me is no longer serving me. And so now I've got to make the shift. And in the midst of that shift, finding ways to ground myself. Go back and check out the first video. When shift happens, how can I ground myself? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Check it out. And then as I'm practicing, learning how to ground myself, I want to quiet the internal noise. There's the external noise, and that may always be, and we can do something about that too. I can set some boundaries for myself and kind of shut some of that external noise out. But most importantly, I want to be able to, I'm speaking from the I perspective, to quiet the internal noise, my internal dialogue, the chaos, the confusion. Why? So that I can gain clarity as I'm moving through the transition. I'm making this shift. I want to be able to gain clarity. And so part 2 of this series will tell you, it'll give you some information of what it looks like not to have clarity, and then what clarity looks like and how to go about gaining that clarity as you're moving through your shift. So before we go further, just a reminder, every piece of me, we are here over here, a safe place. We come here, we're spiritually grounded, very reflective in nature. And so, although it's therapeutic, it's not designed to replace any professional therapy, although it can be helpful. And so, it's for women specifically who are ready to embrace every part of themselves, to leave no part behind, right? And so it's judgment free over here. You can come and listen. You can leave your comments. You can take away whatever you take away for yourself, right? And share it with someone else too. And so that's some of what this channel was about. As your host, I do my best to be authentic, transparent, and share some of, let's just say, experience, strength, and hope for those who are ready to embrace every part of themselves. So, are you ready? I am. So, there's one thing that I'm going to invite you to do. Take a breath with me. Perhaps you've been like me. I've been on the go all day and about, my daily doing this and getting that done. And so, as we dive in tonight, take a breath. No special way. I'm not going to tell you you have to do this and do that. Just be intentional and recognize that you are breathing. So I'll count to 3 just to get us started. You ready? Take another one if you need it, and another, as many as you need. While you're taking your breath, I'm going to go ahead and dive in tonight. So, we're talking about practicing compassion and care while you're going through the shift, while you're going through this transition. And so, again, regardless of what the transition or the shift is, it does require something from you. It requires something from me. And so again, we talked about grounding, gaining clarity, that mental focus. Tonight, when we talk about compassion and care, I want to talk about it from 2 perspectives, right? Let's say from different sides of the coin. Practicing self-compassion and self-care while you are going through your shift, right? While you're going through your transition, you're moving from one place to another, whatever that looks like, the end of a relationship, the loss of a loved one. Again, perhaps it's a career change. People are losing jobs and so many different things. Or again, it can be some health challenges. Whatever your transition or your shift is, practice self-compassion. That's where I want to start with that side first. Self-compassion and self-care. And so what does that look like? I took some notes to keep me on track. I'm going to do my best not to be too long tonight, but I want to hit the points so that as you think about your own transition, your own shift, what you are going through, or perhaps in sharing and helping someone else, you can hit it straight on too. So whatever your transition is, this is one thing that I want to encourage you to do, right? Acknowledge and validate your feelings. I'm letting that sink in. Acknowledge and validate your own feelings. Listen, feelings are just that. They belong to you. They're yours. They come and they go, meaning that feelings typically are not final. I like to say this in this way. Sometimes feelings are fickle. They tell us that things are a certain way, but they're not always accurate indicators of what's true. However, they are your feelings. So, for example, I'm going to use one that's really big. And when I say it's big, in that many of us humans, we struggle with this sadness. And so, if you are experiencing sadness, feelings of sadness, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to acknowledge that sadness and validate it in a way of, you know what? I'm really feeling sad right now. I'm going to miss that place. And when I think about, the people that I'm leaving behind, I feel sad about that. And so being able to acknowledge it, to validate your own feelings, I like to say it this way. It is a way of speaking, being honest with yourself, being truthful with yourself, and not avoiding or ignoring it. Because for real, they don't go anywhere. And I'm going to say this to those who are, like myself, a person of faith, a believer. I have a relationship, with God, and I can take my sadness to Him. And guess what I do? Acknowledge it. He knows anyway. And so, wherever you find yourself in the shift, in this transition, acknowledge and validate your feelings. It opens you up for compassion, first of all, for yourself. Not selfish in a way of, I'm only thinking about me, it's all about me. But can I tell you that you matter? Every piece of you matter too. And so if you can validate and come to that place of, even if you don't fully understand, because sometimes I don't know why I'm so sad, but when we stop, right, and acknowledge it and validate that sadness, as you heard me say, well, you know what I do know? I'm going to miss the people, and I feel somewhat sad about that. Doesn't mean that you have to be stuck in the feelings, but keywords to acknowledge, not avoid or ignore, and to validate that. Not necessarily looking for someone else to validate it, but you validate it. It's a way of opening yourself up for empathy and understanding and having that compassion for yourself. And you can also have compassion for others too. So many times, some of us, maybe not all, we have empathy and compassion for others, and we have very little or none for ourselves. And then sometimes there's an expectation, or we look for understanding and empathy from others, right? We want them to understand. We want them to have compassion, but we don't have it for ourselves. And so I am inviting you to let it start from within as you're going through the shift. That's number one. Let me move it right along. And so these aren't in any specific order, just some articles that I read and some things that I put together. So I'm sharing some of them with you. It's not everything, but some things that I think will be very helpful as you move through your shift, through your transition. Offer support. Now might say, how do I offer support? Support yourself. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? How can I support myself? It's okay to have support from other people. The suggestion is not be isolated or closed off or, don't look for help from anyone else. But first, how can you help yourself? If you are feeling sad or lonely, what can you do to support yourself? All of this requires, I'll speak from an I perspective, it requires me to go within myself, meaning to check myself, to connect with myself in a way where I can give myself the attention I need. And so supporting myself, that can be in many different ways. What is it that do I need? Being able to acknowledge that, whether it's emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, how can I support myself? And then can I ask, is there something that I need? First, I need to become aware of that. Is there something that I need? And so having compassion and care for myself, right? I can reach outside of myself and ask for what I need. That sounds so simple, but can I tell you, it can be very challenging, going through whatever it is that you're going through in the middle of your shift, in the midst of it. Sometimes it's so easy to shut down, to ignore and avoid how we feel or what's going on, kind of stick our head under a rock or in the sand and just pretend it away, if you will. I want to be very transparent. Being a person of faith and spiritual and having a foundation in the Word, I know that God is able because He's the able in me, right? And so with Him living in me, I know that I'm more than a conqueror, but I have to do something, right? And so in doing that, it's like seeking guidance, right? Not just sticking my head under a sand or let's just say over spiritualizing it to the point where I'm still avoiding and ignoring it. And so, expecting something to just drop out of the sky, or I do believe in miracles, but can I tell you, sometimes the miracle happens a moment at a time. I make the miracle happen. So let me keep it moving. So number 3, the third thing I want to share is to create a safe space for yourself. Yeah. So whether that's your grounding, through prayer, meditation, whether it's a person, that is provides a space for you to come and talk, to share, or maybe they pray with you, but creating a safe space, safety and stability, that is really important. Going through transition or the change or the shift, sometimes it's like a crisis that has happened, that has occurred, that brings about the shift, that brings about that life-changing event. And there can be some instability there. Sometimes, people, they lose housing or their safe or stable place, or maybe they've moved from one environment to another, whatever it is, but doing your best to create safety and some stability for yourself, knowing who's around you, checking out your environment as best as you can. Know who's, perhaps you can't do much or very little about the space that you're in, the location, but you can do a whole lot about who's in your space. Yeah, shutting out negativity. Yeah, the naysayers, if you will. And so creating that safe space and stability for yourself as best as you can. That can look differently. Managing your responsibilities. Yeah, and so be it financial, again, getting the support that you need, the resources, knowing what resources are available. You may not have all the answers, but again, let it start from within and ask for what you need. That's being open and willing. Yeah. So we say God provides and He does. And quite frequently, He uses other people to do that. So the next one I'd like for you to consider is, this is a big one, at least for me, being present with yourself, right? Not zoning out, not withdrawing again or shutting down, not disconnecting from yourself first. Remember, talking about both sides of that coin. Let it start, let it begin from within you. And so being present with yourself. And what does that mean? Being mindful in the moment. It's so easy. It's okay to be futuristic, think about the future or future oriented, if you will. I can think, I've got a great future, and in 5 years from now, I want to see this, I want to do that. While you are in the middle of this shift, this transition, this change, listen, for mental focus and stability and safety, being present, being in the moment, being able to recognize what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, so that I can, through clarity, hear clearly. I can see clearly. I can be focused. I can be decisive and make good decisions. And so that comes through compassion, self-compassion, and self-care. So I'll say that again. I'll say it this way. Just being present and being available. Don't shut yourself off. Pray and ask for the wisdom and the understanding, right? And the discernment to know when to withdraw or be in that place of solitude, when to be silent, but how to be present with yourself, how to connect with yourself in a way that you're not running all over the place. It's like I'm scattered here and there. And even if you find yourself in that place, right, without judgment, but with compassion and care, just pause and remind yourself, hey, yeah, I'm in transition, I'm in shift, it's scary, I don't know what the heck is going on, but you know what? I remember what I saw on Every Piece of Me Matters. I'm gonna ground myself. I'm gonna be silent, quiet my internal dialogue, get some clarity, and I'm gonna have some compassion and self-care. And remember that I'm covered and I'm cared for and I'm safe. That is how you can be present with yourself and connect with yourself. And it's okay to connect with others too. But the invitation is to take care of yourself first, right? Or you can say two, whichever one rings or is helpful to you. All right, so I want to share a couple more. We talk about self-care, right? It's very trendy, caring for ourselves, and there are different dimensions of self-care. I want to talk about self-care in the dimensions of taking care of your physical, right? That's important too. Taking care of your mental and emotional, taking care of your spiritual self-care. So it's okay, get the mani and pedi, get your hair done, your lashes and so forth. Those things are good too. Get a massage. All those things can be helpful. Several months ago, I talked about soul care. So being able to care for your mind, your emotions, your will, being able to care for your soul, right, can be very a higher form, if you will, of self-care, of caring for yourself. So I want to encourage you to do that, to get some rest. Just pause. In my transition, I'm grateful to have peace, but I'm telling you, I've been on the go for the past 3 months at least. Just about every weekend, I've had something to do and somewhere to go, and it's been necessary to do it. And so learning how to rest in between, right? How to slow down and pause and recognize, oh my God, I'm feeling anxious. I need to slow down. I need to breathe. I need to take a breath. Yeah. And so I'm talking myself down off the ledge, doing the things that I do that help me to get grounded. All right, let me keep it moving. I want to wrap up in just a few more moments. Here's another one that I think can be very helpful too. So as I take a breath, right, with care and compassion, get in touch, reconnect with your values. What do you mean values? Your core values. What's important to you? What are you prioritizing as a value? I'll use this for example. I know something that I really value is my relationship with God and my spiritual practices and walk. I value that. And so, spending time reading the word, creating the space for it. That's more my forte, right? Creating the space for that. And through, consecrating and fasting and just being still and quiet, prayer, or some of the things reading. Something else that I value is family. Family is important to me. I love my family. I know they love me. Spending time, a quality time with my family, it's important. And so these are some things that I value. You can think of other things too. You ask people and usually they'll say trust and honesty, integrity. All those things are important too. And so you have to, I want to encourage and invite you to slow down, to reconnect with your values. What is it that matters most to you? And are you prioritizing those things? Are those things still a part of your transition? So as you're shifting, as the changes are perhaps, a little instability is there, are you staying connected to what you value? Your beliefs. So I'm going to mind my business. This is just an invitation, and I want to encourage you as you practice compassion and care, right, for yourself. And you can do this unto others as well, but you're doing it to yourself too, right? First, partaker. This can help you as you go through the shift to have self-compassion and care. And so 2 more, I believe, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Let's see, we talked about this in a way of supporting yourself by seeking out resources. Listen, you don't have to be in this alone, right? Help is available, whether it's through, a pastor or counseling, a therapist, other peer support people. Help is available. So seek out resources that may be helpful to you, whether it's maybe occupational agency or counseling, if it's career oriented, whatever it may be, physicians, specialists, if it's things concerning your mental health, physical health, and wellness. So seek out resources. Listen, I say this frequently. I remind myself, God is my source. He is my source. And there are resources available to me. He is the source of all things. But there are resources that are available. And so whether it's through prayer or networking, seek out resources that can help you while you're in your shift. And I think I'm going to end with this one. I'm going to read this one. It says to maintain gentle structure. What does that mean? It's talking about your routine. When shift happens, when that change from one place to another, be it mental, physical, and that could even be a spiritual state. When that happens, it can be very unearthing, right? It can kind of knock us off course. Again, I can say it from my eye perspective that my routine is changed. It's kind of been shaken. Even, my day-to-day routine, it's different. And so regaining or reconnecting or doing my best to maintain my routine or the structure of my day, it can help with stability in many different dimensions. And so I want to encourage you to consider, right, to do this, to maintain your structure and do it in a gentle, compassionate way, not harsh. And that inner critic that comes up, right? Perhaps you're familiar with that critic that comes up to tell you, you should have done this, you should have done that. It's really a part of yourself that wants to be helpful, right? It's learned how to come up and try to manage everything. But in some instances, it's no longer helpful. So again, you don't have to be harsh or critical, but in a gentle, compassionate way with empathy and grace for yourself. Get back into your routine again. Yeah, there's some things that I realized that, oops, oh, I missed that. I missed this. And so let me get back in the saddle, right? And just a way of acknowledging, right, gently and being responsible for doing just that. Because these are some of the things that can help you to move through the shift with self-compassion and self-care. So I'm going to leave it there for tonight. What came up for you? What are you aware of? Somebody is in the midst of a life transition. It's a shift, and this shift has been like, I'll liken it into a violent storm. This shift has come, and it's a health-related shift. You got a report, and that report is just like a whirlwind. You didn't even see it coming. Let me encourage you, as best as you can, ground yourself, whether it's through prayer, you call it meditation, getting quiet, getting still, so that you can gain some clarity, that mental focus and direction. God is in the shift. He's in the shift. He's with you. You are not in this shift alone. And so as you seek out the resources, you may not have all the details, and you're getting things piece by piece, and they're saying this and they're saying that. I want to encourage you as you ground yourself and quiet that inner dialogue, that narrative. Acknowledge those feelings. Hey, I'm a little anxious. I'm feeling, afraid. It's okay to acknowledge it, to validate that it's there. I've learned how to say it out loud, because guess what? Those feelings don't have authority over me. They don't define my outcome. They don't dictate or tell me how to live. Not today. And so I'm able to validate, to acknowledge them. I'm even able to confront them. Fear has been a big one for me. And so through standing on your faith, knowing that you're not alone, getting still, gaining that clarity that will help you to hear and even to see in your decision making, I want to encourage you. Speak to your soul and say, why are you disquieted within? Hope and trust in God. Because in the midst of this whirlwind, this storm, this violent storm shift, you will have clarity. You will have peace. and you will have the expected end that God has already declared for your life. And so I don't know who that was for, but I want to encourage you, those of you who are in other types of shifts, stand fast. There is liberty, there is peace, there's comfort, there's growth, there's stability, there's safety in the midst of the transition. And so I hope that you can hear that on tonight. What's come up for you as I shared these ways of how you can have compassion for yourself and care for yourself and practice these things as you're going through the shift or the transition. I don't know what it is, but whatever, I want to encourage you and invite you. Those words keep coming up tonight. Trust in God, for in the midst of every shift, He will see you through. And so, as we close on tonight, I'd like to offer a prayer. I'm clear in this shift that I'm experiencing that God is my refuge and my strength. He is very present and He is my helper in time of shift and transition and change. And so as I stand fast, I decree and declare to you who are watching tonight that God is your refuge and your strength. He is very present right there with you in your shift, in your transition. And so if you will take a moment, create the space to speak to Him in the midst of your shift, He'll meet you there. He'll meet you there. So I decree and declare peace, healing, and wholeness and restoration to each and every one of you as you're going through your shift. Know that you are not alone, and also know that every piece of you matters. If you don't believe me, just ask God and allow Him to speak to you right in the midst of your shift. I'm Cindy Holden. I hope to see you right back here next week, for every piece of me matters. Until then, peace and blessings. Good night.